Today, Rinpoche gave an excellent explanation of the four immeasurables and how these relate to one being able to achieve the mind that aspires to enlightenment. Rinpoche, everyone wants to turn to the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment in our prayer book. So, and we're going to look at, Rinpoche said, as long as it's the same stanza by stanza, stanza number 12. The point, you're right, okay. Sam. Less so. So it says, the qualities of developing such an aspiration are fully explained by Maitreya in the array of Trunk Sutra. So here, this is speaking of the qualities of bodhicitta, the mind that aspires to enlightenment, the spirit of awakening. Lord Maitreya, in this text, lists all of the excellent qualities that this aspirational and engaged bodhicitta have. So that's the meaning of number 12 that follows the points about the spirit of awakening.
Di suena rotemba kanse seje sonzanto duduban de trebashas shaju senji suena kan talake de zuchena naki kan kan de tenete labanjo kan shaju senji suena ka tapen sogoro shaju senji suena kan talake de zuchenas shaju senji suena de zumares ke de zu yina Naki Khan Kunkante, Tenete Labanjo, Naka Congress, Naka Kanale Labanjures, Tenete Labanjos, Kangi Shemi Tranyeje, Swanji Shena Mikanke, Regenta Kunkante, Jiden Gwala Puaye, Kang Gwala Puaye, Kangi Tamajajete, Shanshu den Sentuna, Choban den Chebapa, Tela Tanmachis was. Chu Kangi Shamaki Tantanya be Swaji Jishina, Makanki, Machiki, Renshenta Sedangula Suba Kante, Jiden Gwen Shajatubala Suba, Tedala Pua Gwala Puaye, Kangi Tama Punasonachi, Kangi Shami Tantanya be Swaji Jishina, Makanki, and the Sedangula Suba Kante Pubaina. And so not Chebashirarua. So not Chebashirar is Kangi Tamajajete, Shanchu to the Santuna, Choban and Chebapa, Telatan Machis was what the Shanchu San Gongina, what the Sona Chebasung.
So then the next stanzas say, and Rinpoche gave a slight commentary on some of them, so that's what I'll do following his lead. The qualities of developing such aspiration are fully explained by Maitreya in the Array of Trunk Sutra. Having learned about the infinite benefits of the intention to gain full enlightenment by reading this sutra or listening to a teacher, arouse it repeatedly to make it steadfast. The sutra requested by Viradatta fully explains the merit therein. At this point, in summary, I will cite 3 verses. So. Now, Lord Atisha is going to quote the sutra requested by Viradatta, and it says, if it possessed physical form. So here, the merit of the altruistic intention. So here, the altruistic intention, or bodhicitta, the spirit of awakening, is not fall categorically under form, because form and mind are mutually exclusive when we look at them as a note. So it does not categorically fall under form, But if it were to, for instance, we were to say it could turn into a form, that form that it would turn into, it says, would completely fill the whole space and even more. So it would surpass, the whole space wouldn't be enough room for this if the merit from realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment were to take on a form. There wouldn't be enough space, there wouldn't be enough room and space for it. So that's what is meant by that line. And then it says, if someone were to fill with jewels as many fields as there are grains of sand in the Ganges to offer to the protector of the world, this would be surpassed by the gift of folding one's hands and inclining one's mind to enlightenment, for such is limitless. So here, if it says if someone, so Rinpoche said if one person were to fill with jewels, and so precious things, so Rinpoche said gold and silver and various jewels, if someone were to fill, it says, as many Buddha fields as there are grains of sand in the Ganges. So if someone were to take gold and silver and all kinds of precious things and offer them to the Buddhas in the Pure Lands, and offer as much as there are, it says, grains of sand in the Ganges. So making that massive of an offering, it says, isn't as powerful as the gift of folding one's hands and inclining one's mind to enlightenment. So the mind that aspires to enlightenment are going for the mind that aspires to enlightenment. That aspiration, the gift of folding one's hands and inclining, this aspirational bodhicitta is limitless in terms of merit, in terms of qualities. So therefore, it can't even be compared to offering as many jewels as there are grains of sand in the Ganges to the Buddhas in all of the Pure Lands. So here it's showing the incredible quality and power of the mind that aspires to enlightenment, or bodhicitta. Dikson Rinpoche. So if you are inclined to think of the mind that aspires to enlightenment, these stanzas are helpful to read over and over again. Okay.
Yeah, 98. Regent Jean Ngola Sons, Jedon Denis Jean Watan, Shachu Denis Lo Jean Watan, Jean Bin Debo, Saint-Jean was Sajisun Marbe, Agent Kuzutan Gudua.
Ale Sarpa, the Nipa, Rinchen.
Nipa Regent.
Okay. Rasam.
Yeah.
So we're going to turn to page 3345 in the English. It's a new chapter, number 3, the 7 cause and effect personal instructions. And then it says there are 3 sections. First, training the mind to be intent on others' welfare. Second, training the mind to be intent on enlightenment. And third, identifying the spirit of enlightenment, the fruit of the training, the result of the training.
Regent Jean la, Regent Jean Ngola Son, Jedon Denis Lo Jean Watan, Shachu Denis Lo Jean, Jean Bin Debo, Saint-Jean was, Takate Terendo, Gotu Saint-Jean Jedon Sher, and that will be Shachu Dus, Saint-Jean Jedon Sher, Jedon Denis Lo Jean Watan, and Saint-Jean Jedon Sher, and that will be Shachu Dus, Shachu Denis Lo Jean. What the need red war and gender the Shachu and the Jean B. Representing one Sajison J. Tatambola ni Lord Jibi Jedrubas, Gender the Lojibi Jedruba, Lord Jibango, Sajini Marba, Sajingo J. Tambo, Gender the Logi Jedruba de la ni Sejela, Senuba Druba, Takate Tanu, the Rendo Tanu, Senuba Druba Dan, Senuba Druba Dan, Sejen Yongi, Nabajan Druba was, Tak Sejela mean Tanu Druba Dan, Ne Yongi, Nabajan Druba, Ne Yongi Shabagua in Jirvada, Senuba Druba Dan, Sejen Taja Yongi Nabajan Druba was, Ta Dombo, Ha. Dombo ne, Sejela Senuba Druba Saturwa. Ha, Jabandingi, goes Sheba Dar Hondola Subi, Rimbanan Deyan, Lala, Jamba Shawos, Jabandin goes. That Jabandin goes Samba Jong, Samba Jibisi, Telalu Dusawa, what the Jejit and Rabandra Marva, Jabandin goes to Makim, what is Marva, what is one they said. Telang Hondola Subi, Rimbanan Deyan. Lane Jawa Shawos, Lane Jawa Shawos, Samba Jang to Mendra, Nanuk Samba. Tella us, Tella Tuma, Sije Kajila Chashin, Kajila Dan Shuriso, Shuri Cheba Gane, Senuba Maduna, Senuba, and Danu, Senuba the Maduna. Shamba Danji Kanjawate Shuri Gentu Jis and Tanu Sanyoba the Madu Tanu the Abumaguna and the Shamba the Hinji Karacheba in a Shuri Gent Jegmatu Shamba Chembo and Hinji Chembo Yomaris Jis Shuri Meba Mine Meji Tanu Gomba Shavos Tanu Senyaba Tanu Gongus Marba, Tanu Gongures, Tanus Takade, Sejela Susu Drata Nieta, Pami Seja Son du Marba, what the Drata Nie, Pamason Butele, Senyoba Gores, Senyoba de Maduna, and what Hiji Chembutan, Shambachim Umares, one thing said, Daniel Bamasonle, Saint Yamu Gores, Senyoba. What did tell her to do what that you know? Tell a Thomas, Senya Kajila, Cha Kajila down, and Kajila down you, Shuris Juba Garnes, Daniel Bamason Butele, Kajila down, Kajila Cha. What the Shuri Jobat Gane, Senyuba, Daniel Bamason with the Senyabu Gugures, and Senyuba Madruna, Senyuba the Druna Shambat and Hiji Yungre, Senyuba the Madruna, and then Yongi Shambatan, Hijam Umares, Kanjawa the Shuri gent with cheese, Hija the Shamba Kanjawa the Shuri gent Chegramatu, Daniel Bamason la Shuri maybe Shamba Chembutan. He shall Mares. Shuri Gentu Chi. Shuri Mebala Mine, Danye Bamasola, Shuri Mebala Mine, Meji, Tanu Gumba Shawos, what the Toma Tanu Gungures, Marba. Tanu Gumba Shawos, yeah.
Okay. So the gradual training has three sections: training the mind to be intent on others' welfare, training the mind to be intent on enlightenment, and identifying the spirit of enlightenment, the fruit of the training. And then it says training the mind to be intent on others' welfare. First, establishing the basis for developing this attitude, the development of the attitude of being intent on others' welfare. And then establishing the basis for the development, for developing this attitude. And then achieving impartiality towards living beings and having affection for all beings. So here we're speaking of generating the spirit of awakening, the mind that aspires to enlightenment. And that is, when we look at the Abhisama Alamkara by Lord Maitreya defined as mind generation, the desire for perfect enlightenment for the benefit of others. So this is what the spirit of awakening is defined as by Lord Maitreya. And then the explanation of it, Lama Tsongkhapa will give now, is very similar to the way that the previous explanations and outlines have been. Identification of the type, and then the measure, and then dispelling misconceptions. So we find this, these points made previously before, where we're identifying something and then the measuring it or qualifying it and then dispelling misconceptions about it. So Lama Tsongkhapa will go through a similar process to explain bodhicitta. When we go down to now the section that we're going to start in, establishing the basis for developing this attitude. And then the first category is achieving impartiality towards living beings. If you don't generate this equal reaction towards all types of beings. So we have three types of beings. We have friends, we have enemies, and those who are neutral to us. And we have to generate a type of partiality towards all three types of those beings. We have to be even-minded and have an even reaction towards friends, enemies, and neutrals. Because if we don't start from there, if we don't start from a basis of equanimity in relation to all types of beings, then it will not be possible for us to generate love through the force of attraction. It won't be possible to generate a great compassion. We will need this basis of equanimity, this basis of impartiality, in order for us to succeed in generating the prerequisites for the spirit of awakening, which are great love through the force of attraction or affection, and then great compassion. So it says, I previously explained the stages of the preliminary practices and so forth in the context of the persons of small and medium capacities. Practice these preliminary practices here as well, and then sustain your meditation. So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, previously went over the training the mind in the stage of the path, shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, and went over all of the points of karma and the desire to definitely emerge. So it's saying, once you've completely, once you've learned, I guess it's learned, once you've completely learned the preliminary practices, which in this case, preliminary practices for great capacity are the teachings for beings of small and medium capacity. So once you've learned these very well, and continue to meditate upon them, then you have to develop equanimity. So that's the next step. After the small and medium scope have been learned well, and what you sustain your meditation on them, so meaning it continues. It's not something that you learn and then it's over. So you learn it and your meditation sustained. You continue to meditate upon the small and medium scope. At that point, then, you develop equanimity. So it says, from the outset, establish an even-minded attitude, eliminating the bias which comes from attachment to some living beings and hostility towards others. So here, this is speaking of the relationship we have with friends, enemies, and neutrals, and that for friends we become attached, to enemies we have aversion or anger towards. So here it's saying that we need to reverse or get rid of both of those types of attitudes. One which is overly attached to someone, and the other which one is overly averse or against someone. So we need to develop an even reaction towards all of these types of beings, and also our neutral beings. It says, otherwise, any love and compassion you feel will be biased. You will never feel unbiased love or compassion. So cultivate impartiality. Rinpoche, chiran the sum lapsum. The danyum sum lapsum.
Tanyo
This Lama Tsongkhapa, the Ewa sum lapsum.
ya son kar
Let's go. Chishene de
Rizhen de zhang la ngwe, zhen du tenye zhu lo zhang wa, de sha zhu tenye zhu lo zhang wa. Yabin de bu sa ji ngo zhu wa, tang bu la nye, lu ji ji zhu ba tang, lu di ji ba ngwe nye ji, tang bu la sen yu ba zhu ba tang, tang ji yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba nye ma riba. Yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba as. Yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba tang bu ne, ane wa de, handu wa de zhen ba, nande yang lang ba sha wo si de tang bu ting se ma riba. Nye ba de, ane nye ba sentient tantric yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba as.
JP. Let's go.
Yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba de ma riba. Sentient sen yu ba zhu ba tang, sentient tantric la sen yu ba zhu ba tang, tantric yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba nye je. Sen yu ba zhu ba tang, tantric yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba wo si. Tang bu ne, ane, ha, jiban ring ka si xe ba dar, handu la su bi ren ba nan de yang, lang de jiang sha wo si.
The Lapsar.
De ba, de ji rwa. Ta nye ba kar, tantric yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba de ma riba. Nye ba tantric, sen yu ba zhu ba tang, tantric yong ki na ba jen du zhu ba, tang bu ne jiban ring ki ka su xe ba dar, handu la su bi ren ba nan de yang, lang de jiang sha wo si. Jiang sha wo. Ta tela peji, nga, saji nga driba na mi do, saji
Oh,
nga.
okay. The Lama.
Saji nga driba na mi do. Nipa la nga les, nipa. Sen yu ba driba tang, yung ki na ba jen tu driba. Yung ki na ba jen tu driba tala nga men rwa, nga. Yung ki na ba jen tu driba la nga. Yung ki na ba jen tu driba la nga as. Nga le tambo yas. Tala sen yu ba se atre. Wata nga ka na tambo te tala sen yu ba se atre ni yung do. Nga ka na tambo te tala sen yu ba. Tala thoma. Senjen kaji la cha shin. Kaji la dang yu shuri su jeba ka nes. Danye pa ma song la. Lo shuri de ka ne. Sen yu ba ma ru na. Shamba de hin ji kan jewa. Shuri jen tu ji is. Senjen danye pa ma song la mi sen yu ba de me na. ane senjen tantric la mi shamba de hin ji de. Shuri jen ke shamba de hin ji yung gar ma do. Shamba chenpo de hin chenpo je tu ma res. Shuri jen tu ji. Shuri me ba la mi ne me ji. Tangyung gong ba sha wo se ta tong ba tangyung de le de. Wa de ni ba tangyung gong ba de re. Ta tangyung la
Then the Tambo Tsar.
tambo tsan ta ni ba re tangyung se ta ni ba yung re.
Ale, ding a question. Danyom sumure.
Oh, tangyung.
Ale, ding a chewa. All right, then Nipa?
Ni ba de wa de tangyung se ta re.
Okay, so there are five, just as an aside, there are five categories in this section in Jayan Sheba states. So the first category begins from then Rinpoche, the Sache Tambo, Jipo Chongo Dan Din Tuo Lanji Rimba, the Yurube, the Sache Tambo, Yomaribe.
사실 tambo de jebun ringi ka su
The
she ba.
Ngunjus,
Mandra so re man de lang wa sha wo.
the Tambo, Yomaribe. Sache Nga.
Se tambi khon de je ro de.
Nyamdu.
Nyamdu re.
Okay, so there are five categories. So the first category reads, I have previously explained the stages of the preliminary practices and so forth in the context of the persons of small and medium capacities. Practice these preliminary practices here as well, and then sustain your meditation. From the outset, establish an even-minded attitude, eliminating the bias which comes from attachment to some living beings and hostility to others. Otherwise, any love or compassion you feel will be biased. You will never feel unbiased love or compassion. So cultivate impartiality. So that's category number one. Number two begins, there are three kinds of impartiality. actually, I think that category number 2 begins with "so cultivate impartiality," and then there are 3 kinds of impartiality. Because in looking at the text here, it's put together, and I believe that would then fall under category number 2, where it says "so." Because it's put together, but I believe that then does fall into 2. Yeah. Yes, it does. Less so. Less so.
미기 나바시바 나이 나바시바 나이 나바시바 지 나바시바 류지 나바시바 예지 나바시바 주마르베 주코도 산용강가 요nga 군둥가스 초아지 류시지 초안 류시 셈바지 일라시바지 리바 저방가도 어디 군둥이스 산용가데 산사만 콜요아레스 초안 류시 초아 류시 셈바 일라시바 리바 나보데 생강가 콜리요더보다 강가 콜리요아레
센주 강가 이르
센주 강가 콜리요로
라서
단 뒤시 단용스게 도와데 초안 뒤시에서데 초안 뒤시에서진데 군우강은 뒤시 도와데 뒤시 단용스야드레스 뒤시 단용스야드 콜리요바 가리요아르스나 안에 메기 나바시바다 메기 나바시베 졸라타이세 디 코로 산중가요로 산중가 사마가 와줄다 그러다 네 메기 나시 졸라타 이제 메기 나바시비 그 산중가 사마게 졸다 그러다 졸라타이 네 셸레드 와데 뒤셰들이 요스 뒤셰 소안 뒤셰되게 네 와데 메기 나바시바다 디코 산중가 사마 졸라타 이제 참에는 졸라 따와데 셰비 네바데 뒤시들 요아르스 뒤시
Some the understood the tama understood.
메기 나시가 졸타비체
Lesso.
메기 나시가 졸토마테이체 디코드 산용하게 졸통으로
Lesso.
참마가 냥도 졸타그로
Lesso.
디 뒤시 따와 셰비 네바데 뒤시들 요아르스 뒤시 당뉴스 소안 뒤시
Lesso. Duche the dawa.
뒤시되게 메기 나바셰바 당 디코드 생각하게 졸 따와데 네 뒤시되게 네바레스
Okay.
뒤시들라데네 어떤 뒤시 당뉴스 어떤 인사래 소안 뒤시 셈바 뒤시에서 뒤시
Of course, there's a marker in it. So, when we look at, okay, so let's start here then. So so cultivate impartiality. So there are 3 kinds of impartiality: equanimity with respect to application, the feeling of impartiality, and immeasurable impartiality. So there are 3 different types of impartiality or equanimity. You can translate it as equanimity. That's the word, same word that we're choosing here is to use as impartiality. Interesting. So there are 3 kinds of impartiality. Equanimity with respect to application. I see. So they want to use that for that. So whenever there is an understanding of something. So there are 6 different kinds of consciousness: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, tactile consciousness, and mental consciousness. And whenever any among those 6 types of consciousness are active, there are also omnipresent mental factors that are active. So while those are active, the 5 omnipresent mental factors are always active. So those are feeling, discrimination, intention, contact, and mental engagement. So here, this word application, let me look in the back here. I just want to, should be discrimination, because the word in Tibetan is duje, which is discrimination. I just want to see something. Oh, they give the reason why they translate it as not as equanimity here. So it says, what is it, 30?
소환 두시 셈바트 일하셔도 제방스.
The NGK, the Duje, the June, it's not.
두시 단용.
The Duje. Duje?
두시 단용 다스 단용 소는 두시 단용 담을래거도.
Duje, okay.
소환
And then
두시.
Duje show.
소환 두시 세들은 두시.
Okay. So that's supposed to say discrimination. I don't know. I can't look in the footnotes and everything, but it should say discrimination. And it's one of the omnipresent mental factors. And it was what discerns. So for instance, when an eye consciousness apprehends a form, so an eye sees a form, the eye, there's always omnipresent mental factors there. There's feeling, discrimination, intention, contact, and mental engagement. Always present when an eye is seeing a form. The discrimination is mental factor allows the differentiation of that from something else. So when the eye sees the form, then it is able to establish it as that, not other. So that's the discriminating omnipresent mental factor's job. I was hoping there would be a better explanation. It says, just as a translator's note, discrimination apprehends upon the aggregation of an object, sense power, and a consciousness, the uncommon signs of an object. So that's just as a translator's note, what discrimination does is it discriminates the uncommon signs of an object and establishes it as what it is. I don't know. If you look in the footnotes, they relate it to something else related to concentration, I think. But in the word here is discrimination. So this first one is the feeling, the equanimity with respect to discrimination. Tambo Detsuku.
두시 단용으로 두시 소환 두시 셈바타 일하셔도 제방스. 소환 두시 세도 두시 단용 세도 어때래도.
So once again, Rinpoche just wanted me to make sure that when we look at mental factors, there are omnipresent mental factors. Those are not the only mental factors. Translators note there are 6 mental factors: omnipresent mental factors, determining factors, virtuous factors, root afflictions, secondary afflictions, and changeable factors. The first one is omnipresent mental factors. Those are always there, and there are 5 of those: feeling, discrimination, intention, contact, and mental engagement. So Rinpoche just wanted to clarify again that this type of equanimity that's being spoken of here is the equanimity of discrimination, with respect to discrimination. Okay, Nipa?
다 니바 소화단요 레랍 말베 소화단요로 소화단요 네 소화도와 등에 도와도 등에 가면 많이 소화단요 말베 해피 빌린스 그러베 해피 빌린스 빌린스 그러베
happy, sad, neutral.
소화단요들라 네 소화도와 등에니지 소화도와 등에 가면 많이 소화주로 소화단요 어떨래 라분데.
So then the feeling of impartiality. Feeling, when we look at feeling, there are 3 types of feeling. There's neutral feelings, there's happy feelings, and then there's unhappy or feelings of suffering. So a feeling which is neither a happy feeling nor a feeling of suffering is a feeling of impartiality. So that which is a feeling but not feeling of happiness or feeling of suffering is feeling of impartiality. So that's number 2. Rinpoche said this one's easier.
So
that feeling of impartiality is a feeling which is not a feeling of suffering and not a feeling of happiness.
다 송바들 체매 단용으로도와 송바들 체매 단용 송래 데는 타마고 체매 단용으로 자고 그래서 단용 공사야데 체매 단용 공부를 자고 그래서 체매 단용 안에 들라 sentient la chadang la subi nyomoba drubi naba jen shidang rani sentient la chadang da trene senyoba ane senyoba ni somba le de shema wosa de shema wos rani chadang da trewa dans Raji Chaba Dhamma the Treva Dhambaji Rani Chadang the Trene Senyuba Nuba Somba Nilen the Shema was Chadang the Treva Dhan Chadang the Nuba said what the Shema del Gugures Tande Desagur that the Tanyu Semeserwa Tanyu Semeso Semejen was Semeja Senja Tanji the Wadan the Ujudan Demba Juji Shamba Seme Sije tanji dunga to dunga judon trawa chuji nije seme sije tanji doa mandewa ji goa seme marba ane seme jiyo seme jidle ne shamba seme nije seme tanyu seme goa seme jija go what the seme tanyu ja guru se
leso so it says the third type of impartiality. So, okay. So there are four, I'm sorry, let me hear. So number 3 is immeasurable impartiality. In this section, impartiality refers to the last one. Immeasurable impartiality is said to have 2 types, wishing that living beings were free from such afflictions as hostility, attachment and hostility, and 2, being even-minded yourself after you become free of attachment or hostility towards living beings. In this section, impartiality refers to the latter. So when we look at this word immeasurable impartiality, immeasurable, there are 4 immeasurables if we look at the prayer book. The immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy, and immeasurable equanimity. So we have may all sentient beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. This refers to immeasurable love. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. This is immeasurable compassion. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that knows no suffering. This is immeasurable joy. And may all sentient beings live in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. This is immeasurable equanimity. So this word immeasurable, we can divide immeasurable into those 4 categories. Then Rinpoche, the Cheran Sanlogar Yube, Nge Tsampa, the Ngatsu, the Kagamari, then Chutsu Ju, then Karma Jipju, Ngatsu, the Sunchana Tsar.
Oh, okay.
Nge Tsampa, the Yakshu.
Okay.
Then Konsu Geche She, Chutsu Jupa, then Karma Jipju, then Konsu Geche She Dikson, then Nge Leka Dro. So today we're not going to take the normal break. What we're going to do is just go right through to like quarter of, and then end at quarter of. That way we don't miss anything really, and then I can go back to work because that's what I want to do. Okay, Dikson Rinpoche.
Da shamba tseme jeje tseme tanyu tseme gawa tseme jendo tseme je. Tseme jedele wade tseme jegale dene santen ngwaje le den ba gugure se gongjo ne santen ngwaje ma tu ba de so ma de. Gongjo ne santen ngwaje tu sa sona santen ngwaje le den ne ne shamba tseme gawa tseme tanyu tseme jeje tseme wade je de yongwo sa de. Te gong ga re sna loben papa tume sangal wade kundu le redwa shamba ganshe na santen la tente shenje na dewa na cheba shu jebi samba yang da ban jubi dingan jin da shera karong da tada da somba dembe sen le jwa na zo sa
The Gare Rinpoche.
Pashi juden.
Oh.
Tsemeje.
Oh, the nge tsampa yure Rinpoche. Ngama nge inji ke zuson. That's good. Semeje the parshin shito nge zuson. The geshe gompo la. That's good. Yure Ju. Semeje Ju. Ju chan. Ju ngo.
Ngo kaduru ngo.
Ewa. Ju ngo ewa.
Ngo.
Okay, ngo. Then
Kunli dules.
Guntu.
Ta shamba tseme hiji tseme tanju tseme gawa tseme jigalo santen ji ngwaje le tempo gudo santen ngwaje gonje ne santen ngwaje ma tu ba do de shamba tseme hiji tseme ju yongwe sa mare
Okay.
상대 거지 투사소나 상대 거지라 되네 ane shamba tseme, niji tseme, gawa tseme, tanyu tseme, wadaje dilego zare.
So when we look at this immeasurable, the four immeasurables, immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy, immeasurable equanimity, it states in the general meaning of perfection that Master Asanga in the Compendium of Trainings states that if it is any among these types of immeasurables, then it necessarily is a concentration brought about by a clairvoyant concentration. It is necessarily a clairvoyant concentration. So this type of consciousness itself requires a clairvoyance in order to be achieved. This is a qualification of this word immeasurable. So this immeasurable is a realization. Right? It's a type of, it's an adjective, I guess, right? You would put next to a realization to make it a specific kind of realization. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the exact quote. The yire. The yene kanga yomare kashe yire.
Ta niba niji tseme, niji kanshe na, sin santen la ten te sa. Santen jingo jima tuba tu mendo wata. Tu kondu kundu re no kundu.
The nika santen mushigo.
Jika santen
Okay, so then the text, Rinpoche is reading from the text, and it says that the concentration, so the four immeasurables beginning with immeasurable love. Immeasurable love can only be brought about by the clairvoyant concentration. And then it goes on to say, as well as immeasurable compassion requires this concentration as well. Okay.
Hinji kanshe na santen la ten te, shenjen na la dungan ta trewa shu, chebi, sambi jebang hama jino. Gawa kanshe na, gawa tseme roa, santen la ten te, shenjen na la dewa ta mandrewa, shu chebi, sambi jebang hama jino. Tanyu kanshe na, santen la ten te, shenjen na la penbi samba, penbi sambi ne yang taba, yu shesha ngama jinos, tseme je,
I found it.
da jen mi ba ngon tu ju gune sheba da yinbe shels. Wate ka dunde ka tu pashin wate duwa, lari chema wate tseme tanyu sayad wate yinsare. Ta kante nga tu tsejen tanchi duwa na duyu ju da kusu kanga nyo diyo wate.
Less so.
O de la na wate tseme jes wate la jana.
Okay, so we'll begin with love, the immeasurable love. I found this section. I have the whole thing translated, so we're lucky today. So we begin with the immeasurable love. Immeasurable love is either a wisdom or meditative stabilization and all things of mind or mental factors associated with them, depending on a concentration that which the sentient beings may meet with happiness. So a clairvoyant concentration. So that is immeasurable love. What is immeasurable compassion? Either a wisdom or a meditative stabilization and all things of mental and factors associated with them, relying on a concentration that wishes that sentient beings be free from suffering. I was loosely translating it before, but it's the same. These other words are added it's just to the definition that they're in it. But the point is that it's necessarily a clairvoyant concentration. That's the qualifying factor that wishes that sentient beings be free from suffering. And then it says, what is joy? And then it repeats that, either a wisdom or meditative stabilization and all things of mind and mental factors associated with them that wishes that sentient beings are not separated from happiness. So this is joy. And then what is equanimity? It's a wisdom or meditative stabilization and all things of mind and mental factors associated with them, relying on a concentration that wishes to equally benefit sentient beings. So there's when we look at what equanimity is, it means that we equally wish to benefit friends, enemies, and neutral. So there's an equal wish to benefit. Khensur Rinpoche.
다 손바 도 공비린 바드ren도와 손바 공비린 네 더 공비 고레네스 더 공비 고레네스 더 손바 드ren도와 더 공비 고레네 질하이 도마 폐야마다 너바야 마제비 바마실라 메데 메덴시네 제수 차바당 콘트로 세데 생유바 두바샤오스 네 생유바 당뇨 공야도 어디 담보 드라니에 바마소는 담 바말한테 공구레스 호텔에서 손바 그래서 안가데마도 안글라사이제 그 공비는 바네스 그 공비 고레네 찔하유 토마 폐야 마다 너바야 마지비 드라니에 바마니 마이 바미시제 말바 바마실라 미덴시네 세 제수 차바던 콩 초아세데 생유바 두바샤오스 당뇨세메도 공고를 손대서래 다 달님에는 공게는 찍어요 저와 니엘면은 공게는 찍어와 전부 바미시제라면 공 되는 자들이 공고를 손대서래 내 공비 고레네 찔라이 토마 폐야마다 너바야 마제비 바마실라 미덴시네 senjesu chabatan control sede senyoba druba shao tala senyoba nyoba drona tene taba mi sejen senyoba yabachaza zona tene niel rugonse ne zashila tanyo drude tala senyoba ne chadan ki jesu cheba chaba chejungi 네 주중기 마뉴바오 들라 뉴네 달라 세뉴바 공데스 다가데 동부 바미시jelme 뉴바고 니바데 든 소소기 니에마르베 니 뉴바고 데 차자스나 든 잘공스 어디서 자니 바마스노 디자
Bless you. And then the Kanga Sumba?
손로서
Okay.
tanyo consul dalmen tanyo consul nyelamen tanyo consul pa me sejelame consul sonro sonro tambo pa me sejelame ne gongine tanyo chelare
Then yene the Kanga Sumba. The Tambo Nipa Sumba, Jai Sheba, the Sumba.
soba tanate segemodo ulma tendu.
Okay, so this now we move on to number 3, and then we start to, in number 3 we go over this equanimity in relation to the 3 types of beings, and it begins with equanimity in relation to people who are neutral. So it says, the steps for cultivating immeasurable impartiality is as follows. Since you can easily be impartial to a person whom you have neutral feelings, first take as the object of your meditation such a person, someone who has neither helped nor harmed you. Achieve an even-mindedness towards this person, removing your attachment and hostility. So here the first advice is to start with a person that you have neutral feelings towards, someone that you don't have a feeling one way or another towards, and begin to develop this equal desire to benefit. So you begin with the person who you are neutral to. And once you've, it says that once you've attained this, and whatever we're trying to attain, impartiality towards a neutral person. So once you've attained this, then you move on to friends. So it's once you have attained this, then cultivate even-mindedness towards a friend. Your lack of even-mindedness towards this friend is either because of the degree of your attachment for him or her, or because of the bias from your attachment and hostility. So here, now you move to friend. So you go from a neutral being and develop an equanimity. And then you move on to friends and you develop equanimity. And then the third is towards enemy. And this is the most difficult person to develop equanimity for. And that's why you work up to him or her. So then it says, after you achieve an even-mindedness towards this friend, cultivate it toward an enemy. Your lack of even-mindedness towards this person is due to your hostility, viewing him or her as totally disagreeable. After you are even-minded towards this person, finally cultivate it towards all living beings. So once you have worked through your neutral relationships and your friends and your enemies, then apply that equanimity that you've developed in relation to those three beings to everyone who exists. That is the point of friends, enemies, and neutrals in developing equanimity, equal benefit, equal desire to benefit all three types. Diksum Rinpoche.
다 송바된 자 로지지 제다 말이야. 송반데 공비 고리네 찔라이 토마 페야마타 네바 마제비 바마실라 미텐시네 제수 차바다 컨트롤 세데스 바미시젤라 미네 세뇨바 두바쇼 다뇨 고디 담보도데 바미시젤라 미네 공구레스 공긴 찔하그레스 텔라 세뇨바 주나스 바미시젤라 미네 세뇨바데 용바이나 쇼나 주나 테네 자실라 세뇨바 주데스 테네 녜라 공구레스 자실라 세뇨바 주데 텔라 세 마뇨바네 차단 그리스 쩨방 차바 지종기 마뇨바오스 자 녜를 되는 어디 단유 야부 모용하데 네 차바 시체와도 중화던데 어디 왕기 네 세뇨바 용아들 너도거레스 중종기 마뇨바오 달라 녜라 세뇨바 종소나 달라 뉴네 달라 세뇨바 공데 녜라 세뇨바 종소는 달라 공구레스 달라 세뇨바 공데 달라 마뇨바네 타지도 무튼바 때네 셰당오스 달라 와데 당뇨 마용와데 가르스나 달고 셰당요에서 와데제데스 셰당그노도거레스 달라 공네 달라 세뇨바 공데 달라 세뇨바 공데 달라 세뇨바 마용와데 가르제고스나 타지도 무튼바 때네 셰당 달라 셰당와요에서 되게 당뇨 모용바 대제도 거레스 당오 텔라뇨네 세제 당질라 세뇨바 공모스 다니에 바마 송갈레 안 세뇨바 종소난 세제 당질라메 세 당뇨 공고레스 와드바도 송바드레.
So Rinpoche said, let's read through this one more time. So the steps for cultivating immeasurable impartiality are as follows. Since you can easily be impartial towards a person whom you have neutral feelings, first take as the object of your meditation such a person, someone who has neither helped nor harmed you. Achieve an even-mindedness towards this person, removing your attachment and hostility. So we have those reactions to the other types of beings, attachment towards friends and hostility towards enemies. So we are trying to make sure that we begin with this neutral person and that there is an equanimity which must lack those two. So then we move on, after we've developed this equanimity in relation to neutral, we move on to those that we are friends with. And says, once you have attained this, then cultivate even-mindedness towards a friend. Your lack of even-mindedness towards this friend is either because of the degree of your attachment for him or her, or because of the bias for your attachment and hostility. So then you begin to analyze your relationship with friends and do the same thing that you did with the neutrals, develop this equanimity. And then we move on to last, the most difficult, the enemies. After you achieve an even-mindedness towards the friend, cultivate it towards an enemy. So friends we have attachment towards, enemies we have aversion to. So here we're getting rid of this aversion in this case. And prior to that, we were working with friends and trying to get rid of attachment. So now we're trying to get rid of this aversion and develop equanimity towards them. After you achieve an even-mindedness towards this friend, cultivate it towards an enemy. Your lack of even-mindedness towards this person is due to your hostility, viewing him or her as totally disagreeable. After you are even-minded towards this person, finally cultivate it towards all beings. So once you've worked with these three types of beings and developed equanimity for these three types of beings, then apply the same process to everyone. Okay. Less.
다 제바도는 가르고는 차단 까투그레스.
Less.
제바들로 들려대다.
The chuadang
공
lenja.
가르져바이나.
Less.
네, 차바 여차도 공도 까투그레스. 네, 제바들려대래. 네, 오나 대달라 지시 공비 차단 봉시나 니데스. 오늘 어디 차단도 어디 냐부 가게 봉그레스. 차동 냐부도 가르스. 가르 공그레스. 오나 대달라 지시 공비 냐부 지시 공비 차단 봉시나 다니 바마송라 미니 차단데 공 가르잖아. 어디 봉투그레 냐부도 그레스. 봉시나 니데 ane donsen ni yoris sejeng wene taji dewa doba da dogen mendo ba chombe nas ne kaji la nyewa zone pen do shin kaji la renwa zone ne neba sheba mejeba penba mejeba Meriso nyaba dans, Meriso nyaba da sang dos dang guru song ne zare. Ona tada la cha jishi gongbe cha dang bon she na ni des. Wata danye ba ma song ba tada la garu gong cha dang bon tu res na, nyabu garu gong res na ni yo res. Dang de res. Seje jing wen ne 타지 도완도 봐도 동에 문도 지버리스 시쟁원의 도완도 봐도 동에 문도 봐 총배에서 지지 총배나 나 가지라 녀와존에 팬도신 가지라 정와존에 녀바시바 녀바시바 팬바 마지바 머리소 녀바스 와테산당 텐데산당 오레스 말이야 시진원의 도완도바도 동원문도 총바래 총바인자 시진 가실 넣어봤지 사실 가실라 네 어디 동아지하고도 주세요 말해서 어디 산당 오르스다 오나 대달라 제주공비 차단 봉시에 니데 세제정원에 도와도 동원문도 총바래서 이송 수수원에 가실 당하지난 펜투 마레스 총베나 카질라 녀와존에 펜도신 차바지 카질라 르와존에 너바시바 펜바 마지바 머리소스 다니 바마 som부들 너바지나 제냐 펜도는 노냐 구그마도 데 카질 너바지 카질라 워드는 디그 마레존데 머리소 냐바 산당 워드 산당나 anu wadi chadang dungu nukres da dada nyele chabada dangwa dungu kres da danya nyecha dwa dhaba dunga mandaba chombe esher danga da kwed marba nyaba dans rangi ngwene susu ngwene sang tamba yina ya rangi ngwene thoma meba ne rangi ngwene jawa thoma meba na shijin leja dagi nye do 마주바네 가야 매베스 네 라경원에 네 세제 삼아 라게 아마제마니 마지요 말레스 아마제마니 마지요 말레스 주제 가즈나 가정 가서 메가 트레인 빼자 임바 메가 트레이들 토마 매바레스 토마 매바이다 라 토마 매바레 네 세제 삼아를 좋아할 토마 매바레 좋아할 토마 매바이다 ane susu ama shemanya ba chiye yo mares senjan tajara mares kashi jowa ngami amare kashi sindi amares rangi jowa la thoma me jangi jowa la thoma me ba imbes otu good marba
that's So number 4, we begin a question and answer. Well then, what meditation eliminates attachment and hostility towards these 3 persons? So we have attachment towards our friends, aversion towards our enemies, and the potential for either with neutral. So then what combats this? What is a way to eliminate it? And so Kamala Shila's stages of meditation offers 2 approaches. First, contemplate as follows. From living beings' viewpoint, all equally want happiness and do not want suffering. Therefore, it is inappropriate to hold some of them close and help them out, while keeping others at a distance and harming or not helping them. We can state that all sentient beings necessarily want happiness. All sentient beings want to be free from suffering. So there is this commonality that all sentient beings share, that all wish for happiness and all want to be free from suffering. It says, therefore, it's inappropriate to hold some close and to help them while keeping others at a distance and harming or not helping them. So everybody's core wish is exactly the same. Everybody's aim is to be happy and be free from suffering. So that's exactly the same. Then why it seems inappropriate then to only help some and not all. So that's the first point that's made. The Rinpoche Nipa Lobsang. The Kamala Shila, the Tenzin Ni.
Jiba control, Jiba control. Jiba control, by Jiba control, the Tendua.
The Tanga Jepu.
Yanyela Chabala, Nyala Chabane, Pumandawa Chuki Shubales, Pumandawa Sanjil Shubindo Jojiroda, Pumandawa Chuki Shubales, Dagging Wenji China, Tanji says, Dagging Wenji, and then Hamal Mamma says, Nese Yoris, Tanji say, Dajan Cheji, Wenji Shashin Tos, and then I answered Hamale. And children and I shot to say Mabuje was Chibaris. Shashin to Gunjan Pension, Dada Subayis, and the Randa Jen, Daniel Baba Tamalo, and the Joa Tomalas, Joan Hama Santa Baina, and Pension Seri Chiore, Dacha Yore, Niecha Yore, and the Kachibade Yores, Gunjan Pension, Dada Subayis. Ne pension surgeon Hamasu Yades, Subahin. Cheja Chetara, Decha Saint Jes, Cheja Chetara, Decha Saint Jes, Decha Saint what the name was on the Decha Guardian Jaguars, Saint Jes, Hangamal Nasukangalo, and the surgeon Jibares, Saint Jes. Shesomba dance Hange Meji, Nebi, Kosu, Shebater, Daniel Taji, Nyoto, Jone, Dru, Chusamba Shade, Tene, Truchanika Dogos, Troa the neighbor, what the Santana, and the Daniel Bomasola Chabatan, Troa Niga do no good, the Nigga Santana, do no good was at it. Hang a meji, Nebi, cause the Sheba that because not chilling about Mabacadula, Condon Rosa the Roa, Sheba that Daniel Taji Nyoto and Jones, Datanye, Diana Tabarish, Dadegamare. Nye na taba nye dega mare kun jo de gres da nye cha ne gre nye de da cha yung gre taba temba dega mare jo kun mata ba jo ne gres nyo dun jo ne ru chu sambar sha de ne chucha ni ga dogos de san ta ba ina da nye ba ma so la me be cha ba de hon ni ga pon tu gres do ne gres chucha ni ga dogo de ba ji ba de do.
So all of this is number 4. Contemplate as follows: from my viewpoint, if I have continuously been reborn since beginningless time, all beings have been my friends hundreds of times. To whom should I be attached? To whom should I be hostile? So it's similar to the point that we previously made about the mango tree. We have the beginningless mango tree. So we previously analyzed the beginning or first mango tree, and we don't establish it, mango from a previous mango tree. Likewise, we have beginningless lives. And in these lifetimes, we have had every kind of relationship with all beings. So there hasn't been a static relationship that we've had throughout time with any of them. We've had this changing relationship, sometimes friends, sometimes enemies, sometimes neutrals, since beginningless time. So therefore, and not only that, so I go on to read, furthermore, with regard to attachment to friends, the daughter, like the finest moon discourse sutra says, formerly I have killed all of you, and you have slashed and dismembered me. All of us have been mutual enemies and killed one another. How could you be attached? In accordance with my previous explanation in this section on the fault of uncertainty, think about how all friends and enemies can quickly change. By thinking in this way, stop hostility and attachment. So again, even in this lifetime, we don't have any kind of static certainty about our relationships. Our friends become our enemies. Enemies that we had become our friends. People we don't know, we get to know. So we can't say that there's a static type of relationship, even in this lifetime, that we can be sure of in relation to others. So it says, Lama Tsongkhapa says in previous section, he explained under the fault of uncertainty some of these points. So it's in the first, in the translator's note, it's in the first volume. So it said to look over that. But all of this can quickly change in a moment's notice. A friend can become an enemy, enemy can become a friend. So because of this, it doesn't make sense to cling on to these ideas of attachment to a friend or aversion towards an enemy because of this unstatic nature of that relationship. Dene ngapa?
Ngapa wa tesara duwa ta, ngapa dene, ngapa luwa de, ngapa tesara ta, ngapa de drang, nye chebar drang, nye chebar jizun ne, she guwe, dranye je, lo du mugu ji, ta kante, dranye bama sontal, dranye bama yembi lo du guwa yo ma res, da yembi lo tu yo ari, nye yembi lo tu yo, te du guwa ma res, ne, dranye yembi lo du guwa ma, te drala dangwa dang, nye la chabi lo du gu res, ngaba lo wate le di marba, ngaba lo wate, ngaba nda dranga nye, chaba ji jizun ne, she guwe, dranye je lo du mugu jis, dada nye lo du gu ma res, dada nye yodar wata. Lo du gu ma res, dranye yimba, jusen du she ne, da yimbi jusen she ne dangwa dang, nye yimbi jusen she ne, chaba je juwe ma res. Da yimbi jusen she ne dangwa da ka gu re, nye yimbi jusen she ne chaba da ka gu res. Dang nye chaba zung ne, she guwe, dranye je lo du mugu je, da yimba jusen du she ne, chadang ki, rizu jebe lo goba yino sa. Chabi jusen she ne kasa, nye yimbi jusen she ne, chabang gu re, da yimbi jusen she ne, dangwa du gu ma tu, dranye lo gu ma res. Jebe lo goba yino. Tanje yonge naba jento droba ne, tanje yonge naba jento droba ne, goni baba les, tanje yonge naba yonge shamba yinjirwa da, goni baba dangda kaduwa.
Rinpoche, the da, tsalo dang, ka gugumari? Gang you send the dry yuna. Dine can't. I see. Okay, Digsung. Number 5, in this context, your contemplation requires to make the distinction between friend an enemy. It is not the notion of friend or enemy that you need to stop, but the bias that comes from attachment and hostility, which are based on the reason that some people are your friends and others are your enemies. So in this particular point of meditation, it's not that you're trying to not have friends or not have enemies. It's the reaction towards your friends and enemies that you're trying to change. You have this attachment towards friend, you have this aversion towards enemy, and you're trying to not have those reactions. It's not saying, okay, at this point we're not going to have any enemies, we're not going to have any friends. It's saying that we're trying to get rid of this relationship and this reaction that we have towards them. So it says, it is not the notion of friend or enemy. So it's not this idea of friend or enemy. We have to get rid of at this point. It's our reaction. It's our emotional response that you need to stop. But the bias that comes from attachment and hostility, which are based on the reason that some people are your friends and others are your enemies. This bias needs to be transformed into equanimity. The Rinpoche, karma sum.
Oh, yeah.
They well, sarpa gutsogudu.
Yeah.
Tanda sarpa gutsogudu. Chishina tanda ka dis. The ngapa tsar.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so well, I guess we'll end there because it starts a new section. So we'll do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. Here's where it is. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. So those are the 5 categories, and completes all 5 categories under the section Achieving Impartiality Towards Living Beings. And then next time begins with having affection for all beings, and that's number 2. So establishing the basis for developing this attitude has 2 categories. We've completed the first category, and there are 5 categories within that. So concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lobsang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Suji Rinpoche Guzi Shapi Denrlanga Lamrim Chemakan Trianla. Thank you, everyone. Again, I apologize for being late. My boss is in Greece and the other guy's in a cruise somewhere. I'm the only one working.
So you're driving in?
My father's driving the truck right now to the